The eyes, the soul, and the hidden connection. Inspired by Carl Jung's wisdom, the moment that feels different. Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and felt something impossible to explain? Not attraction alone, not simple curiosity, something deeper, a strange familiarity, as if part of you already knew them. Many people describe this feeling when they meet someone who changes their life forever. A soulmate, a spiritual partner, someone who awakens emotions that were sleeping for years. Carl Jung believed moments like these were not random. He spoke about the collective unconscious, the invisible psychological field connecting all human beings through ancient patterns called archetypes. According to Jung, we are not just individuals living separate lives. We are deeply connected souls carrying inherited emotional symbols, instincts, fears, desires, and spiritual longings. And sometimes, another person activates those hidden parts inside us, especially through the eyes, because eyes do more than see. They reveal. They communicate truths the mouth cannot explain. That is why some people can look at you for 5 seconds and make you feel completely understood, and others can stare at you for years without ever truly seeing you. The soul recognizes energy before the mind understands it. That is why soulmate connections often begin with eye contact. Not conversation, not logic, recognition. Carl Jung and the language of the soul. Jung believed every person carries both a conscious identity and a hidden inner self. He called this hidden self the unconscious. Inside it live emotional patterns that shape our relationships, choices, dreams, and even the type of people we feel magnetically drawn toward. Have you ever wondered why you instantly trust some people? Why certain strangers feel familiar? Why some relationships feel fated, even when they make no logical sense? Jung believed this happens because certain people activate archetypes buried deep within us. The healer, the protector, the truth seeker, the catalyst, the mirror. When two souls meet, these archetypes begin interacting long before words are spoken, and the eyes often become the doorway. That is why eye contact can feel powerful, emotional, even overwhelming. You are not simply looking at a person. You are unconsciously sensing their inner world. Why soulmate connections feel so intense. A soulmate connection is rarely calm at first. It shakes you. It awakens emotions you thought you had under control. One conversation can stay in your mind for weeks. One look can make you question your entire life. This happens because soulmate energy forces growth. Carl Jung believed real transformation begins when we confront hidden parts of ourselves. He called this process individuation, the journey of becoming your true self. But here is the difficult truth. Most people avoid this journey. They stay distracted, emotionally guarded, disconnected from their deeper nature. Then suddenly, someone enters their life and changes everything. Not because that person is magically perfect, but because they awaken something sleeping inside the soul. That is why soulmate relationships often feel spiritual. They force you to see yourself clearly. Your wounds, your fears, your hidden desires, your potential, and the eyes become the mirror where all of this is reflected. The energy behind different eyes. Throughout history, many ancient traditions believed the eyes carried spiritual meaning, not because eye color itself is magical, but because human beings naturally project emotional energy through the eyes. Some eyes feel grounding and safe. Others feel intense and piercing. Some feel mysterious. Others feel healing. Jung would likely explain this through archetypal energy, the psychological patterns people unconsciously embody. For example, a person with deeply calming energy may naturally become the emotional anchor in relationships. A person with intense, truth-seeking energy may challenge others to stop hiding emotionally. A person with transformational energy may enter someone's life during periods of major change. This is why soulmate connections rarely happen by accident. People are drawn together because their souls have something to teach one another. Sometimes healing, sometimes growth, sometimes painful awakening, but always transformation. The soulmate mirror. One of Jung's most important ideas was the concept of projection. Projection happens when we unconsciously place hidden parts of ourselves onto another person. This explains why soulmate connections can feel almost supernatural. You are not only seeing them, you are seeing parts of yourself reflected back. The confidence you admire in them may be the confidence your soul wants to develop. The emotional depth you fear in them may reflect emotions you have buried inside yourself. The peace you feel around them may be reminding you of who you truly are beneath stress, fear, and survival mode. Soulmates become mirrors, and mirrors are not always comfortable. Sometimes they reveal beauty, sometimes they reveal pain, but they always reveal truth. That is why soulmate connections often trigger emotional chaos before emotional peace, because growth comes before alignment. Why some people feel instantly familiar. Have you ever met someone and felt like you already knew them? Not intellectually, emotionally, as if your nervous system relaxed before your mind could explain why. Jung believed the unconscious mind communicates through symbols, emotional recognition, and instinctive patterns. Your soul notices energy before your conscious mind creates a story about it. This is why some people enter your life and immediately feel safe. Their energy matches something ancient inside you, a forgotten emotional memory, a spiritual lesson, a missing piece of your own identity. That is why soulmate connections often feel timeless, because the soul does not experience connection the same way the mind does. The soul recognizes resonance, the danger of ignoring soul connections. Modern life teaches people to disconnect from intuition, to analyze everything logically, to suppress emotional depth, to avoid vulnerability. But Jung warned that ignoring the unconscious creates inner emptiness. Many people spend years chasing success, attention, validation, or temporary relationships, while feeling deeply disconnected inside. Then they encounter someone who awakens real emotion, and suddenly everything changes. They begin questioning their path, their relationships, their purpose, because authentic connection exposes emotional truth, and truth changes people. This is why soulmate relationships can feel both beautiful and terrifying. They force emotional honesty. No masks, no pretending, no emotional hiding places. Just truth. Your eyes reveal more than you think. The way you look at people matters. People can feel sincerity through your eyes. They can feel emotional distance, fear, warmth, curiosity, pain, love. That is why eye contact is one of the deepest forms of human connection. A soulmate often recognizes you not through appearance, but through emotional presence, through energy, through the feeling behind your eyes. And maybe that is why certain connections stay with us forever, because beyond words, beyond physical attraction, beyond timing, the soul remembers what felt real. The beginning of awakening. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Many soulmate connections are actually invitations to wake up, emotionally and spiritually, to stop living mechanically, to stop abandoning your true self, to stop settling for shallow connection. The people who touch your soul most deeply are often the people who help you become more yourself, not less. And maybe that is the real purpose of these powerful connections. Not possession, not fantasy, transformation. The eyes simply become the doorway where that transformation begins. And somewhere deep inside, your soul already knows it. The soulmate trigger and the shadow within. Why soulmates arrive during emotional turning points. Have you noticed that the deepest connections often appear during the most uncertain seasons of life, right before a major change, after heartbreak, during loneliness, in moments when your identity begins falling apart? Carl Jung believed this was not accidental. He believed the soul pushes us toward transformation when our old identity can no longer carry our future. And strangely enough, soulmate connections often arrive exactly at that crossroads. Not when life feels perfectly stable, but when the soul is ready to evolve. That is why these connections feel so overwhelming. They do not simply enter your life. They interrupt it. They challenge the version of you that has been surviving instead of truly living. The shadow self Jung warned about. One of Jung's most powerful teachings was the concept of the shadow. The shadow is the hidden part of ourselves we avoid facing. It contains buried emotions, fears, insecurities, desires, wounds, and even hidden strengths we were taught to suppress. Most people spend years pretending this part does not exist. Careful, controlled, but soulmate connections have a strange ability to awaken the shadow almost immediately. Suddenly, emotions you buried years ago begin rising to the surface. Jealousy, fear of abandonment, intense attachment, Emotional vulnerability, the need to feel chosen. And this confuses people because they think soulmate connections should feel peaceful all the time. But real soul connections are not designed to comfort your ego. They are designed to awaken your truth. And truth is sometimes uncomfortable. Why you feel so emotionally exposed? Have you ever met someone who made you feel emotionally naked without even trying, as if they could sense what you were hiding from the world? That experience can feel frightening, because most people are used to relationships built on performance, pretending to be strong, pretending not to care, pretending not to need love. But soulmate energy cuts through emotional masks. Jung believed human beings naturally wear what he called personas, social identities created to gain acceptance and protection. The confident person may secretly feel broken. The independent person may secretly fear abandonment. The cheerful person may secretly feel lonely. Then suddenly, someone enters their life and sees beyond the persona, not because they are psychic, but because soul connections naturally expose emotional truth. That is why these relationships feel intense from the beginning. Your soul senses it cannot hide anymore. The difference between attachment and soul recognition. Many people confuse emotional obsession with soulmate connection, but they are not the same thing. Attachment says, "Please, don't leave me." Soul recognition says, "I feel awakened around you." Attachment is driven by fear. Soul recognition is driven by growth. This is why soulmate relationships often push both people toward emotional healing. Instead of emotional dependency, they expose unhealthy patterns: people-pleasing, emotional avoidance, control, fear of intimacy, the need for validation. At first, this feels painful because the ego wants comfort, but the soul wants evolution. And evolution requires honesty. Why some soulmates separate. One of the hardest truths about soulmate connections is this: not every soulmate is meant to stay forever. Some people enter your life to awaken you, to redirect you, to break emotional patterns that were destroying your spirit. And once that lesson is complete, separation may happen. This is why some soul connections feel unforgettable, even years later, because their purpose was transformation, not permanence. Carl Jung believed every meaningful relationship carries psychological significance. Even painful endings can become sacred if they awaken consciousness. Think about the people who changed your life the most. Many of them probably did not stay forever, but they changed the direction of your soul. And sometimes that is the greater purpose. The eyes never lie. Words can manipulate. Behavior can be performed, but the eyes often reveal emotional truth before language does. That is why people instinctively search each other's eyes during emotional moments. Love, fear, grief, trust, longing. The eyes communicate energy faster than speech, and soulmate connections often involve unusually powerful eye contact because both people unconsciously sense emotional recognition. It feels like being seen beyond appearances, beyond personality, beyond status, beyond the roles society expects you to play. For a moment, Two souls recognize each other without explanation, and that feeling becomes impossible to forget. Why some connections feel spiritually magnetic. There are relationships that feel pleasant, and then there are relationships that completely alter your emotional reality. You think about them constantly. You replay conversations. You feel their energy even when they are absent. Jung would likely explain this as unconscious activation. Certain people activate dormant parts of our psyche: creativity, courage, passion, healing, self-worth. That is why soulmate connections can feel spiritually magnetic. They awaken emotional energy that was asleep for years. A person who lost hope suddenly feels alive again. A guarded heart suddenly wants vulnerability. A disconnected soul suddenly remembers how deeply it can feel. This is not weakness. It is awakening. The fear of real love. Ironically, many people pray for deep connection, then panic when it finally arrives. Why? Because real love requires authenticity, and authenticity feels dangerous to wounded people. If someone has experienced betrayal, abandonment, rejection, or emotional neglect, deep connection can trigger fear instead of comfort. The soul wants intimacy, but the nervous system remembers pain. This creates emotional conflict. One part of the person wants closeness. Another part wants to run. Jung believed healing begins when we stop running from the unconscious and begin understanding it. That means recognizing your emotional triggers instead of judging them. Your fear may not mean the connection is wrong. Sometimes it means the connection is real enough to expose old wounds. Soulmates and emotional growth. A true soulmate does not simply love your strengths. They challenge your emotional limitations. They encourage growth, honesty, self-awareness, healing. Sometimes this happens gently, sometimes painfully. But authentic soul connections refuse to let you remain emotionally asleep. And this is where many people misunderstand love. They think love is finding someone who never triggers discomfort. But growth and discomfort often walk together. The strongest relationships are not built by avoiding emotional truth. They are built by facing it together. Jung's greatest lesson about love. Carl Jung believed the ultimate purpose of life was becoming whole, not perfect, whole, and meaningful relationships help us reach that wholeness by revealing parts of ourselves we cannot see alone. That is why soulmate connections feel spiritual. They become mirrors for healing, mirrors for awakening, mirrors for transformation. Sometimes they show us our light, sometimes our darkness, but always our truth. And perhaps that is why certain eyes remain unforgettable long after people leave our lives, because somewhere deep inside, your soul remembers who helped you become more yourself, not who entertained you, not who distracted you, but who awakened you. The beginning of inner transformation. The moment you stop chasing surface-level connection, your entire life changes. You begin craving honesty instead of attention, depth instead of performance, presence instead of perfection. And slowly, you stop asking, "Who will love me?" and start asking, "Who helps me become my truest self?" That question changes everything. Because soulmate connections are not just about romance. They are about evolution. Two souls meeting at the right moment to awaken hidden parts of one another. Carl Jung believed that the deeper the connection, the deeper the transformation. And maybe that is why some people enter your life and leave permanent fingerprints on your soul. Not because they completed you, but because they reminded you who you were becoming all along. The soul's mission, divine timing, and the love that transforms you. The connection you were never supposed to forget. Some people enter your life quietly. Others arrive like a storm. They change the atmosphere around you. Your thoughts become deeper. Your emotions become stronger. Your intuition becomes louder. And suddenly, life no longer feels ordinary. Carl Jung believed that meaningful encounters are never random. He called them synchronicities, mysterious moments of connection that appear too meaningful to be coincident. A chance meeting, perfect timing, repeated signs, unexplainable familiarity. These moments often surround soulmate connections because the unconscious mind recognizes significance before logic can explain it. That is why certain relationships feel destined. Not because fate controls every detail of life, but because the soul naturally moves toward experiences that create awakening. Why timing matters in soul connections. One of the hardest lessons people learn is this: love alone is not enough. Timing matters too. Two people can deeply recognize each other and still struggle if they have not healed emotionally. This is why soulmate relationships sometimes involve separation, distance, or periods of silence, not as punishment, but as preparation. Jung believed every person must confront their own unconscious patterns before becoming emotionally whole. And sometimes life separates people until both souls are ready for deeper alignment. This can feel heartbreaking, but many powerful connections are delayed because growth must happen first. One person may need to learn self-worth. Another may need to heal emotional avoidance. Another may need to stop seeking validation from everyone except themselves. Soulmates often trigger the healing process before the union process. Because lasting love cannot grow where emotional truth is absent. The difference between fantasy and real connection. Modern culture often confuses fantasy with love. Fantasy focuses on obsession, perfection, constant intensity. But real soulmate connections are deeper than emotional excitement. They create emotional honesty, growth, safety, expansion. A real soulmate does not simply make your heart race. They make your soul evolve. They inspire you to become more emotionally mature, more conscious, more authentic. And, strangely enough, this kind of love often feels calmer with time, not more chaotic, because true connection eventually creates emotional peace, not endless confusion. Jung believed the healthiest relationships support individuation, the process of Becoming your fullest self. That means real love should not erase your identity. It should strengthen it. Why people fear their soul's calling. Many people spend their lives avoiding the very things their soul desires most. Deep love, purpose, authenticity, emotional vulnerability. Why? Because truth requires courage. It is easier to stay distracted. To chase temporary pleasure. To hide behind emotional walls. But soulmate connections destroy emotional illusions. They force people to confront who they truly are. That is why these relationships often feel life-changing, even when they are difficult, because the soul values awakening more than comfort. And maybe this is what Jung meant when he said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." Growth changes people. Love changes people. Truth changes people. And once the soul awakens, it becomes impossible to return to emotional sleep. The eyes and emotional energy. Have you ever noticed how emotionally connected people communicate without words? A single glance can say, "I understand you. I missed you. I forgive you. I'm afraid. I love you." This is because emotional energy is constantly being exchanged beneath conversation. The eyes reveal emotional presence more honestly than language ever could. That is why eye contact feels different with certain people. You are not just seeing their appearance. You are sensing their attention, intention, and emotional openness. And when two people truly see each other, something powerful happens. Defenses begin collapsing. Pretending becomes exhausting. Authenticity becomes natural. This is why soulmate connections often feel emotionally freeing. For the first time, someone sees you without requiring performance. The soul does not want perfection. Many people wait their entire lives for a perfect relationship. But perfection is not the soul's goal. Growth is. Healing is. Truth is. A soulmate is not someone who never triggers you. A soulmate is someone who helps you become conscious of what needs healing inside you. Sometimes through love, sometimes through distance, sometimes through loss. Carl Jung believed relationships are psychological mirrors designed to help us evolve. That means every meaningful connection carries a lesson, even heartbreak. Especially heartbreak, because pain often reveals emotional truths we ignored while comfortable. Why certain people change you forever. Think about the people who left the deepest impact on your life. Not necessarily the longest relationships, but the ones that transformed your perspective. The ones that made you stronger, more awake, more emotionally honest. Those connections mattered because they activated your inner growth. And once the soul experiences that kind of awakening, ordinary connections no longer satisfy it. You begin craving depth, presence, emotional truth. You stop wanting relationships built only on attraction or convenience. You start wanting alignment. This is one of the greatest signs of spiritual maturity. Your soul begins choosing resonance over illusion. Jung's wisdom about becoming whole. Carl Jung believed every human being carries both light and darkness, strength and fear, love and pain. The goal of life is not becoming flawless. It is becoming integrated, whole. This is why soulmate relationships can feel so emotionally intense. They force integration. They bring hidden emotions to the surface. They reveal unconscious wounds. They awaken forgotten dreams. And if both people are willing to grow, the relationship becomes more than romance. It becomes transformation. Two souls helping each other evolve, not through control, not through dependency, but through conscious love, the love that awakens the soul. Real love changes the way you experience yourself. You begin speaking more honestly, feeling more deeply, living more intentionally. The connection inspires courage. You stop settling for shallow conversations and emotionally unavailable relationships, because once the soul experiences depth, it cannot pretend surface-level connection is enough anymore. This is why soulmate encounters often become turning points. They awaken the part of you that was waiting to truly live. And even if the relationship changes form over time, the awakening remains. That is the difference between ordinary attraction and soul recognition. One excites the ego. The other transforms the spirit. The final realization: your soul is constantly guiding you toward growth, toward healing, toward authenticity, and sometimes it uses another person to wake you up. Carl Jung understood that the deepest human need is not attention. It is meaning. People want to feel seen, understood, connected, loved without pretending to be someone else. That is why soulmate connections feel sacred, because, for a moment, two souls recognize each other beyond the masks of the world. And maybe that is what your eyes have been searching for all along. Not perfection, not fantasy, but recognition. The feeling of finally meeting someone who sees the real you beneath the fear, beneath the wounds, beneath the roles you learned to play. Because when two souls truly recognize each other, something ancient awakens, and neither person leaves unchanged. In the end, perhaps that is the true purpose of love. Not to complete you, but to help you remember who you really are. Conclusion: the eyes remember what the soul cannot forget. Maybe that strange feeling you experience around certain people was never your imagination. Maybe there is a reason some eyes feel familiar the moment you meet them. A reason some people awaken emotions you cannot explain. Carl Jung believed the human soul is constantly searching for wholeness. And along that journey, certain connections appear to guide us back toward our deeper self. Not every soulmate arrives to stay forever. Some arrive to heal you. Some arrive to awaken you. Some arrive to redirect your life completely. But all of them leave a mark on your soul. That is why the most powerful connections are never only romantic. They are transformational. They challenge you to become more honest, more conscious, more emotionally awake. And perhaps that is why eye contact can feel so powerful. Because beyond words, beyond appearances, beyond personality, the soul recognizes energy. The eyes become mirrors. Mirrors of truth. Mirrors of hidden wounds. Mirrors of potential. And when someone truly sees you, not the mask, not the performance, not the version you created to survive, something inside you begins to heal. That is the kind of connection people spend their entire lives searching for. Not attention, not validation, recognition. The feeling that your soul has finally been understood. So maybe your eyes were never just physical features. Maybe they were always carrying a silent message about who you are, what your soul came here to learn, and the kind of connections destined to transform you. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." And perhaps soulmate connections exist to help us do exactly that. To stop running from ourselves. Because in the end, the deepest love is not the love that changes who you are. It is the love that helps you become who you were always meant to be. And maybe, somewhere out there, someone will look into your eyes one day and recognize the soul you have been becoming all along. Maybe you wish to share your wisdom or experience with us. Let's continue, inspire and learning from each other. Thanks for watching. Kindly subscribe and support to keep more of such Soulmate Connect wisdom.